Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. First of all, if you're new here, I post new book reviews almost every single day, so if that sounds interesting to you, if you like following book reviews, if you enjoy getting reading inspiration, then maybe feel free to stick around. Now let's talk about today's book. Today I am going to be reviewing this book right here. It is From My Land to the Planet by Sebastião Salgado. This is what it looks like, and I got this out of my library because I was familiar with the author of this book, Sebastião Salgado. So a brief introduction to how I know Salgado. I enjoy looking at collections of photography. My library has a really good art section, you could say, where there's a wide variety of books with different photographs from different photographers. And I was reviewing one, I believe, and what did happen was under one of my videos, a viewer commented and suggested that I look at this photographer and his works. It was a photographer that I wasn't familiar with, that I hadn't heard of. So even though I do enjoy looking at collections of photography, I'm not really well versed in that field, so I don't really know a lot of the big names. And so someone recommended I check out his work, and I wound up getting the book Genesis out, which is one of his big collections of photography from all around the world. It was a massive book. It was like a free arm workout to take home because it was so big. I believe I do have the review on my channel of this book. I read it back in September of 2022 and I loved it. I had a great time just leafing through the collection of photography, and you could really tell that the photographer, that the artist had a real passion and a real skill for this sort of work. However, I have not been able to, or I haven't read anything since then by this photographer, by this author. And I saw this in the library, and I'd actually seen this before in the library, and I decided to check it out and give it a read. So this book was actually something that I wish I had read before I had read Genesis. So I just checked out Genesis and read it based on a recommendation. But now that I had read this book, I feel like if you have not looked at any of the photographs from this individual, I would recommend reading this first, because I feel like this gives the reader the primer that they need to go and enjoy the collections of photography. So From My Land to the Planet is an autobiographical book in which the author explains kind of where he came from, how he got involved in photography, the story and meaning behind each one of his projects, and how he went from rural Brazil to an internationally acclaimed photographer, which is really quite the feat. The book isn't too intense. It is a little under 200 pages, so it's very easy to read, and it doesn't contain a lot of examples of his photography. It does contain some, but it doesn't contain a lot. So this is primarily not a collection of his photographs. This is primarily his autobiographical work, him putting out a brief explanation of his life, what he stands for, what photography means to him, and how some of these big projects, which he's well known for, came to life. I really enjoyed reading in this book about how he was initially on this path to become an economist, and so when he came from Brazil, he wound up leaving Brazil for political reasons to go to France. So he is in Europe, and he thought he was going down the economics path. It was a comfortable career. He talks about how at one point he was able to afford a nice car and a nice apartment, and he thought that he was going to continue along this path for a while. It seemed like a stable career, making good money, was something that he already had connections and I believe also his degree in. So there was really no need for him to deviate. So I have a lot of respect in general, but also specifically for this individual, for saying, actually, I want to pursue something that's a little bit more meaningful to me, that I have a little bit more enjoyment about. Obviously, there's people in the world who enjoy doing economics, and this is not saying that photography is somehow a better profession than economics, but I do have respect for him saying, you know what, economics isn't for me, and being willing to give up the trappings of the comfortable life, being willing to step away from a stable and secure income with a lot of apparent money and prestige and wealth. I'm sure he wasn't making crazy money, but he talked about how he could afford some nice things with this job, and being willing to step away from it to follow something that he really loved doing was, in my mind, very admirable, and I really enjoyed reading about it. Leaving that financially rewarding job and following his path towards photography has definitely paid off for him. He has become internationally acclaimed. His works And you can see why when you look at his collections of photography. He really is a master at his craft and his work is amazing. So I would recommend, if you read this book, also get a collection of his photography to look at, because again, this is not primarily a collection of his photographs. This is more a collection or an autobiography explaining what work means to him and how he got to where he is today. So reading this in tandem or in conjunction with a collection of his photography, I feel like would be the best way to enjoy both of these. And after reading this book, I'm really inspired to go get another one of his collections of photography and look at it myself. I've already looked at my library's online catalog, and I know that they have a number of his photography collections available at the library that I haven't read. I did read Genesis, but there's a large number of other ones that I haven't read, so I think the next time I go to the library, I'm gonna grab one or two of those and take a look. Now that I've read this is just inspiring me to get back into looking at his work, because I feel like he does a great job and his photographs really speak to me and are interesting to look at and are just well done. If you have any thoughts, if you have any photographers that you think collection I should look at, or any books in general you think I should read, I love getting your suggestions. I add it to my to-read list and I try to read every single one of them if I can get my hands on the book. I love getting your suggestions. If you have any thoughts on Sebastião Salgado, maybe you've read this book, From My Land to the Planet, and you have any comments that you want to share, put it in the comments below. I love to read your comments. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.